On the day I moved out, my stepsister Victoria showed up with boxes like she owned the place. What started as a simple moving day spiraled into screaming matches, accusations about inheritance, and years of pent-up resentment. She crossed every boundary possible, even rifling through my stuff. What she tried to pull at the very end left the entire family in shock and betrayal. So, I never thought I'd be posting on here, but after what went down last weekend, I honestly need to get it off my chest. This is about my stepsister, Victoria 24, and the absolute chaos she caused during my moving day. A little backstory: my dad passed away 2 years ago. He left me a portion of the house I grew up in, specifically the upstairs apartment area that he had converted when I was in college. It wasn't a huge inheritance, but it was sentimental and legally mine. My stepmom Victoria's mom got the main house, and Victoria, well, she wasn't left much except some personal items and a small trust that had already been released to her. I never rubbed it in, but apparently she's been bitter about it for years. Fast forward to moving day. I was packing up my last boxes because I finally got approved for a new apartment downtown. My boyfriend Ethan and my cousin Sarah were helping me load things into a U-Haul. The mood was honestly upbeat, music playing, laughter, pizza boxes scattered around, until Victoria showed up. She just waltzed in without knocking, like it was her place. "So when are we starting the move?" she asked, plopping her bag down on my couch. I froze. "Oui?" I said. "Victoria, I'm moving. This is my place. What are you talking about?" She gave me the smug look. "Mom said that once you leave, this space is up for grabs. I'm finally getting what's owed to me. You got Dad's money and this apartment. It's my turn now." Ethan and Sarah exchanged a look like, "Is this for real?" I tried to keep calm. "No, Victoria, the space is part of my inheritance. That's legally mine. I'm just renting it out until I decide what to do with it." That's when she lost it. She started pacing, her voice rising. "You think you're so entitled just because Dad liked you better. He only left this to you because Mom didn't fight him harder. You don't deserve it." My cousin Sarah spoke up. "Victoria, this isn't the time or place. She's literally moving her stuff. You can't just barge in and claim it." But Victoria wasn't hearing it. She stormed into my bedroom in my private space and started pulling open drawers, saying she was checking what was hers. I was shaking, half furious, half in disbelief. "Victoria, get out of my room," I shouted. But she just tossed a stack of my journals onto the floor and said, "Half of this stuff should have been mine anyway." That was the exact moment my stepmom walked in carrying coffee like nothing was wrong. She saw Victoria holding my things, and instead of stopping her, she said, "Well, maybe we should just sit down and talk about it. This family's been through enough fighting." "Are you kidding me?" I was literally mid-move, sweaty, stressed, and now dealing with my stepsister trying to steal my inheritance in front of my face, with her mom enabling her. And that was just the start of the disaster. I stood there, completely dumbfounded. My stepmom sipping her latte while Victoria was rifling through my stuff felt like some twisted sitcom. Except I wasn't laughing. "Talk about it?" I snapped. "She's in my bedroom throwing my journals around like it's a garage sale. This isn't a conversation, it's theft." Victoria tossed her hair and smirked. "Oh, please, it's not theft when it should have been mine in the first place." Ethan stepped forward, trying to keep the peace. "Victoria, you need to chill. This isn't your apartment. This isn't your stuff. You can't just stay out of this," she snapped at him. "You're not even family." That was it. My cousin Sarah had enough. "You know what? I'm family. Then I'm sick of you acting like a victim all the time. You blew through your trust fund in less than a year, and now you want to raid Victoria's." She pointed at me, realizing she mixed the names, then corrected herself. "My cousin's life to make up for it. Grow up." Victoria's face turned red. She slammed one of my drawers shut so hard it rattled. "You don't know what it's like. You've always had Dad wrapped around your finger. Mom and I got scraps because he only cared about his real family." That line hit me like a punch. Real family. I could see my stepmom's face tighten, but she didn't correct her. She just sighed and muttered, "Let's not bring up old wounds, Victoria." Old wounds. More like years of resentment bubbling to the surface. I raised my voice. "Dad left this to me because he wanted me to have stability. He wanted me to have something. You got your trust fund, and you blew it on a car you don't even drive anymore and 3 vacations in 6 months." Victoria spun on her heel. "Oh, so now you're keeping score. You think because you were Daddy's favourite, you get to throw it in my face?" At this point, I was shaking. Not just with anger, but with this deep sense of violation. She wasn't just fighting over money. She was rewriting my dad's memory, twisting it into some narrative where she was the victim and I was the spoiled brat. Ethan tried again. "Let's just step outside and cool down." But Victoria picked up one of my friend photos of a picture of me and Dad at my college graduation and held it up. This is the crap he left you. He didn't even think about me." She hurled it onto the floor. Glass shattered everywhere. The whole room froze. "Are you insane?" I screamed, rushing forward. My hands were shaking as I picked up the frame. My dad's smiling face was cracked right across the middle. Sarah jumped in, furious. "That's enough. You've crossed every line. Get out, Victoria." But Victoria just folded her arms, defiant. "I'm not leaving until I get what's mine." And that's when my stepmom finally raised her voice, louder than I'd ever heard. "Victoria, stop it right now." For a second, it felt like maybe she was siding with me. But the next words out of her mouth made my stomach drop. "Victoria deserves a fair share. Maybe we should reconsider the will." The air was sucked right out of the room. I felt my stomach drop like I'd been punched. Reconsider the will? My stepmom had literally just suggested that Victoria might get what she wanted to my inheritance. I spun around, trying to keep my voice steady. though it was shaking with fury. Are you serious? Dad made it clear. This was his decision, and it's legally binding. You can't just change it because Victoria's throwing a tantrum. Victoria grinned like she'd won a game. Finally, someone who understands. I lunged toward her, not to hit, but to grab her hands from my stuff. You will not touch another thing of mine. That's when the screaming started, all of us at once. Victoria yelling about being treated unfairly, Sarah accusing her of entitlement and laziness, Ethan trying to mediate, and me just yelling my absolute frustration. The boxes, the packing tape, the U-Haul waiting outside, and none of it mattered anymore. Then Victoria dropped the bomb I didn't see coming. You know what? I have a lawyer. I've been talking to him for months. He says I might have a claim, and Mom agrees. I froze. My heart sank. This wasn't just a personal boundary violation anymore. She was trying to turn a legal issue into a weapon on moving day. I swallowed hard, forcing myself to speak. You can't just do that on the day I move. That's insane. Dad wanted this for me. You knew that when he passed. Victoria rolled her eyes. Oh, so now I'm the villain for wanting what's mine. You act like he was some saint who only cared about you. I was part of his life too. At this point, Sarah's face was red with rage. Victoria, enough. You're not the victim here. You're violating every boundary, and you're destroying family trust over money. You're supposed to be my cousin's sister, not her enemy. Victoria snapped back. Family, you all abandoned me. Ethan, desperate, tried to calm everyone down. Look, screaming at each other isn't going to solve anything. Victoria, you can't just storm in and start taking things. Victoria, step back. But she ignored him, grabbing my dad's old desk from my room and attempting to drag it toward the door. That was the last straw. I blocked her path. Stop, this is mine. Legally and morally, you have no right. My stepmom finally intervened physically, stepping between us. But instead of diffusing, she said, maybe we should just split things evenly. That's what Dad would have wanted if he were here. I lost it. No, you don't get to rewrite his will because you feel guilty about past grievances. I'm moving out today, and this ends now. Victoria, you leave, or I call the police. Victoria froze, eyes wide. The first crack in her bravado. Sarah nodded firmly. Call them, seriously. Victoria stared at the door like she was reconsidering, and then, finally, stormed out with her arms crossed. I slammed the door behind her, feeling physically and emotionally drained. Ethan and Sarah just looked at me, exhausted. I can't believe she actually tried that, Sarah whispered. I shook my head, still trembling. Boundaries, Dad's memory, she violated everything. The house was quiet again, but the tension lingered. Moving day was supposed to be a fresh start. Instead, it felt like the beginning of a war I never asked for. After Victoria stormed out, the silence in the house was heavy, almost suffocating. Ethan and Sarah tried to help me pack in peace, but every time I glanced at the broken photo frame or the scattered journals, my blood pressure spiked. I felt violated in a way that went beyond the inheritance of my private space. My memories, my dad's legacy, all treated like public property. My stepmom finally returned from checking on Victoria about half an hour later, carrying another latte like nothing had happened. I didn't even bother asking how she hadn't noticed the destruction. Victoria's upset, she said casually, placing the latte on the counter. Maybe I overreacted by letting her feel like she could talk to you about this. I couldn't hold it in anymore. Overreacted? Mom, she destroyed my things, went through my room, and tried to claim my inheritance. Overreacted? Really? She sighed. She's just heard. Dad always loved you more, and she feels like she got the short end of the stick. I felt my hands clench into fists. Mom, she got a trust fund. She had opportunities, and she blew most of it. You know that. This isn't about love. It's about entitlement and disrespect. She crossed every line, and you enabled her. My stepmom didn't respond at first, just stared. Then she said quietly, almost to herself, I thought I was protecting her. Sarah spoke up, firm. Protecting her from what? Reality. Your daughter's old enough to understand boundaries, and you failed to teach her them. You can't keep excusing this behaviour. I felt some relief hearing Sarah back me up, but it didn't erase the sting. Moving day should have been a milestone, a fresh start. Instead, I was left questioning family loyalty and the fine line between inheritance and entitlement. We finished packing the rest of my boxes in silence, the earlier chaos leaving a tension that made every move deliberate and careful. Ethan carried a few boxes to the U-Haul, avoiding eye contact with my stepmom and ignoring the distant sound of Victoria's car pulling out. By the time we finished, it was late afternoon. I took a moment to walk through the apartment, now half empty. The walls felt different, the sense of safety Dad had built here felt fragile, like Victoria's storm had shaken the very foundation. Then my phone buzzed. It was a text from Victoria. Think about it. Mom's right. Maybe we can work something out. Don't be so stubborn. I stared at it, furious but strangely relieved. Furious that she hadn't changed at all, relieved that she was gone. I didn't respond. I didn't want to encourage any further manipulation. Ethan wrapped an arm around me. You okay? I nodded, though my chest felt tight. Yeah, I think so. It's just boundaries. She crossed them, and that's not okay, ever. Sarah added, family can be messy, but you stood your ground. That counts for something. I took a deep breath, looking out the window at the U-Haul waiting outside. Moving day hadn't gone according to plan, but maybe it was the first real step toward reclaiming my space, my dad's legacy, my life, and my boundaries. As we loaded the last box, I felt a strange mixture of exhaustion and determination. Victoria had thrown a punch, metaphorically and literally, at my family and my inheritance. But the fight wasn't over, the battle for boundaries had just begun. The next morning, I thought the chaos was over. I was wrong. My phone buzzed relentlessly, text from Victoria. emails from a lawyer with her name on it, and even a call from my stepmom. Victoria's messages were aggressive yet oddly manipulative. "You're making a mistake. Dad wouldn't want this. Mom and I are just trying to be fair. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." I ignored most of them, only responding once with a curt, "Do not contact me regarding my belongings or the apartment. Boundaries are non-negotiable." But the legal notice in my email was harder to ignore. She had filed some kind of preliminary claim, suggesting that parts of the apartment and certain heirlooms were rightfully hers according to her misinterpretation of Dad's will. My chest tightened reading it. This wasn't just a boundary violation anymore, she was trying to weaponize the law against me. I called Sarah first. "You have to see this. She's actually trying to take my apartment, or at least part of it." Sarah read through the email and then laughed bitterly. "Of course she is, and your stepmom backed her. I told you she'd enable her. This isn't about fairness, this is control." I felt sick, but I knew I couldn't cave. I scheduled an emergency meeting with my lawyer. As I sat across from him, papers strewn everywhere, he looked at me with concern. "Victoria's claim is weak," he said. "But the fact she has legal counsel and backing from your stepmom makes this more complicated emotionally than legally. You need to document everything, every text, email, and incident on moving day." I nodded, swallowing hard. "I have videos of her going through my stuff, smashing the photo frame, everything." He smiled slightly. "Perfect, that strengthens your position." After leaving the lawyer's office, I met Ethan and Sarah for coffee. I could feel the tension still clinging to my shoulders. "She's trying to gaslight you," Sarah said flatly. "Sending messages like she's reasonable, but the claim proves she's aggressive and manipulative. Your stepmom is just worried about keeping the peace." Ethan nodded. "It's messed up, but you've got support and proof. That counts more than her whining." I sighed. "I know, but it hurts. Dad's memory, it's like they're twisting it to justify their actions, and Victoria, she doesn't even see the boundaries she's destroying." That evening, my stepmom called again. Her tone was soft, almost apologetic. "I just don't want to fight. Victoria's hurt. Maybe we should negotiate." I had to take a deep breath. "Mom, no, I'm not negotiating my inheritance, my space, or my memories. That ends today. If Victoria wants to go legal, fine, but I will defend what's mine, and boundaries aren't optional." There was a long pause, then a faint sigh. "I understand." For the first time, I felt a small relief. Not victory yet, but clarity. The lines were drawn. Victoria could try to escalate, but I was prepared. I had support, evidence, and most importantly, the right to protect what was mine. I looked around my half-packed apartment, feeling the weight of moving day still heavy, but a spark of determination ignited. I wasn't going to let anyone, and not even family, violate my boundaries or twist my father's legacy. A week later, Victoria made her final attempt. She showed up at the apartment and announced, her face a mix of anger and faux innocence. I warned her not to come, but apparently boundaries meant nothing to her. I opened the door cautiously. "Victoria, what are you doing here?" She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I just wanted to talk. One last time. Can't we settle this like a family?" I felt my stomach twist. "Talk? You mean intimidate and claim what's mine? I've already told you boundaries exist, and you've crossed every single one." She often crossed her arms. "You think you're so perfect, so entitled. Dad left you things because he loved you more. That's not fair." I stepped aside, letting Ethan peek out from the hallway behind me. "You've said that already. Enough. If you try to touch anything, I will call the police. End of discussion." She laughed bitterly. "Police? You're really going to do that over family?" Sarah arrived at that moment, like some guardian angel of sanity. "Yes, over family. She broke your stuff, went through your private things, and tried to claim your inheritance. That's not just disrespect, it's illegal." Victoria's smoke vaulted. She glanced at my stepmom, who had silently followed her. My stepmom's face was tight, conflicted. "Victoria," she started. "Mom, no," I said firmly. "This ends now. She can't manipulate us or you anymore. Boundaries, respect, those are non-negotiable." Victoria's eyes flicked between us, her expression shifting from defiance to frustration to something like despair. For a brief second, I saw the girl who had once been my stepsister, maybe misunderstood or hurt, but that fleeting glimpse vanished as quickly as it came. She muttered, "Fine, but this isn't over." Then she stormed out, slamming the door behind her. I felt a strange mix of exhaustion and relief wash over me. Ethan put a hand on my shoulder. "You okay?" I nodded, blinking back tears. "Yeah, finally. I think she knows she crossed the line this time. The legal threat. The evidence. It's not worth it for her to push further. At least I hope so." Sarah nodded. "Family can be messy, but you handled it. You set boundaries, and for the first time, it stuck." My stepmom lingered in the doorway. I just wanted to make things easier. I see now that I let her get out of hand. I'm sorry." I gave her a small nod. "Apology accepted, but moving forward, we have to respect each other's spaces. No more excuses." She sighed, a mix of guilt and resignation on her face. "Agreed." As I closed the door behind them, I finally allowed myself to breathe. Moving day had been a nightmare, a boundary nightmare, an inheritance nightmare, but standing there, I realized something important. My dad's legacy wasn't just the apartment. It was the right to protect my life, my memories, and my boundaries. Victoria could try to fight me, manipulate me, or drag the family into conflict, but I was done letting her rewrite reality. That day, I reclaimed more than just my belongings. I reclaimed my voice, my space, and my right to be respected. And as I turned back to the half-packed boxes, I felt something rare peace. The storm had passed, and for the first time in years, I was moving forward on my terms. A few days later, I finally finished moving into my new apartment. Boxes were unpacked, furniture arranged, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a sense of calm. It was quiet, too quiet, actually, and I knew Victoria wouldn't bother me here. My phone buzzed once. A text from my stepmom. Victoria is taking some time away to think. I hope this gives everyone space to heal. I'm proud of how you handled everything. I smiled, faintly relieved. At least she acknowledged what had happened and Victoria wasn't escalating anymore. That evening, Ethan and Sarah came over to help me hang a few pictures. The conversation drifted naturally, and for the first time, I felt normal again. Honestly, Sarah said, holding a framed photo, you handled that like a pro. Most people would have crumbled with all the manipulation and chaos. I shrugged, but a small smile tugged at my lips. It wasn't easy. Every boundary was tested, but I realized something: boundaries aren't just about keeping people out. They're about protecting yourself, your memories, and what you value. Ethan nodded, wrapping an arm around me. Exactly, and you did that without losing your head or your heart. That's strength. The next week, Victoria called just once. Her voice was quieter than I'd ever heard, lacking the usual bravado. Hey, I just wanted to say I'm sorry for the apartment, the journals, the photo frame. I overstepped. I needed to realize that what was yours was always yours. I hesitated but felt the flicker of something like relief. Thank you for saying that. Boundaries matter, Victoria. I hope you understand why I had to be firm. She was silent for a moment, then muttered, I do, and I'm going to work on respecting them. It wasn't perfect. We weren't best friends, and we never would be, but it was a start. Closure, at least for now. Even my stepmom seemed to shift after that call. She stopped trying to mediate in ways that enabled Victoria's entitlement and started respecting my space. Family dinners were calmer, conversations less charged with tension, and the apartment finally felt like my sanctuary again. A few weeks later, I walked through my new place, looking at the photos of Dad, my journals neatly arranged, and the furniture I had chosen. Everything felt intact. All mine. Protected not just by law, but by my own determination. Victoria still had her own life to sort out, and I wasn't naive enough to think this would be the last conflict ever. But the lesson was clear. No inheritance, no family drama. No words could strip me of my right to protect myself. As I sat down on the couch, sipping coffee, I thought back to the chaotic moving day, the yelling, the smashed photo frame, the legal threats, the manipulation. And I realized something important. Storms pass, but boundaries, once set and defended, last. And for the first time in a long time, I felt at peace. The nightmare of moving day was over. The inheritance was safe. And the family drama, though messy and painful, had finally led to clarity, respect, and the sense of empowerment I hadn't known I needed. I was ready for my new chapter on my terms.